Okay, this video is taken from a dream from the 29th of February 2025, and this one I've called Israel Flood. Now, how this one starts is with me literally just seeing a map. So I'm just seeing a map from above, kind of like a satellite view almost, but I can see it almost like you see on world maps. You know, we have different countries, they're different colours, you know, very, very basic, so you can easily see the borders. It looked very much like that, and it looked like modern day Israel to me. It looked very much like modern day Israel to me. As far as the country boundaries, it looked like the same sort of shape as Israel is today. It may have been slightly different, but that's how it looked. Now, what happened in this dream was it showed me a flood happening. So this, as far as where it looked like, was it covered about a third of the country in kind of its length, I would have said. It wasn't all the way across the country. It was kind of like I suppose when I say a third, it was like a third of the length of the country, but it wasn't covering a third of the actual land mass. So it's maybe covering a sixth of the land mass, something like that, maybe a little bit more. But when I looked at where it was located pretty much where the Dead Sea is. Now, on the map, I don't think it actually showed the Dead Sea or anything like that, but based on where it was located around there. But I very much saw it as a sabotage kind of scenario. So again, you get feelings in dreams, don't you, as to who certain people are, what certain intentions are, good or bad, that kind of thing. I had a feeling that it was a sabotage scenario, and the population around the area wasn't really Israeli, which I imagine obviously it would be in that kind of area of Israel, but it felt like almost like a Palestinian sort of kind of population, not a Jewish population, if that makes sense. And it's also quite sparsely populated. So the way it showed me the dream is it was kind of panning from the top. So it was kind of like a big zoomed out image of Israel. Then it went to kind of zoomed more in at the top of Israel and then worked its way down. And how it was showing me the population area was it was showing little, not stick figures, but you know, like the kind of little figure of a man you would see on a toilet or something like that. It was kind of like that. There was in certain areas there was lots and lots of people, and then it'd just do another area and you'd see maybe a few people, maybe like 5 people in this area, sort of like stick men sort of thing, and then a few further down, and then it was showing how it was getting more sparsely populated. So the further we were going down, it was more sparsely populated. And in this area, it was showing like 1 person versus the other areas being like 5 people and 4 and 3, that kind of thing. But as I said, I very much got the feeling of it being like a dam burst. Now again, as I said, in the dream, I didn't know that there was bodies of water there. I wasn't really aware of that. It was only once I looked at obviously I know that there is, if that makes sense. I know there is, but it wasn't shown. It wasn't illustrated to me as being areas of water and stuff like that. Just I saw how it looked was water starting at the top. If you imagine it almost like a wave, it was just a wave of water that was just kind of moving down this roughly about a sixth of Israel. Now, that's all there really was to it, unless I pick up some other bits and pieces as I go through. But as I said, very much felt like some sort of sabotage scenario. Now, as soon as I came out of the dream, I think it was on that morning or something like that, I thought I would start looking into it in a bit of detail. So I looked into it, and as I said, noticed that where this flooding area was around the sort of Dead Sea sort of area. So around about sort of to the side of the Dead Sea, and a little bit more zoomed in. I'm actually gonna just quickly do that now. I'm just gonna flip this into. There you go. So that's a little picture I drew. Afterwards, just as a sort of rough area. Obviously, there you can see the sort of West Bank area there. It was below there, kind of next to or around that kind of region. So southeast kind of area. I'll flip it back, and then hopefully get it back in the right sort of position. Yeah, so it's around there. So post dream, as I said, I saw that there was obviously the Dead Sea area around there, and I mentioned what I didn't mention yet. So there was other aspects to the dream where I knew I was in Israel at the time, and I was on some sort of a holiday, and I remember getting my luggage together. So I was looking to leave on a coach. Shocker! I've had lots of coach dreams, lots and lots of coach dreams, lots of luggage dreams. So I was putting luggage on. Yeah, for context, yeah. So when I met Jesus for the first time, that was getting onto a coach. There was luggage being put away. I've had other ones where there was cranes picking up coaches and dropping them in swimming pools. Don't know what that's all about. Yeah, there was some strange stuff. I've had loads with cars and with coaches, specifically coaches. Anyway, yeah, so I was aware of needing to get out the area. So wherever I was in Israel, I felt like I needed to get out the area, and there was loads of people getting on coaches to leave. There was another seemingly unrelated part. So yeah, I don't know where this kind of fits in, but it might make a bit of sense. So there's another part where I was actually in a car. It was quite a powerful car that I was racing around in. I was driving around like I was on a computer game. You know, where you kind of zoomed above the car and you're controlling the car, so you can see down the road a little bit, and you're not actually physically in the car. So that's how the view was above it with a camera, almost like a drone sort of tracking sort of thing. And I was blasting around the area, heavy brakes, throwing myself into corners. I was trying to get out of there as quickly as I possibly could. Yeah, so braking harshly, yeah, etc, etc, etc. And I saw myself actually get across the finish line. So it was almost like a computer game where I was zooming around these streets and getting around. There was a few cars that got there before me. I wasn't first placed or anything like that, but I got across the finish line, and then that bit, I think that part of the dream just kind of finished. Yeah, there was another bit where I was arranging finance for somebody. I'm actually a mortgage broker, and I was arranging mortgage finance for somebody, which seems like a very bizarre thing to be doing, but that was in there. Anyway, so thoughts as when I came out of the dream was, as I said, I googled everything. Google AI to check to see if there were dams in the area, because I'm just not aware of whether there's any kind of dams at all in Israel. So I googled it and it said yes, there are dams near the Dead Sea in the Jordan, Israel and Syria sort of areas. The dams have diverted water from rivers and streams that actually feed the Dead Sea. Yeah, so that's basically what it said there. So it seems like there are obviously dams in the area that potentially could be sabotaged. And if you wanted to obviously hurt Israel, obviously they're an exporter, aren't they? I think of exporter of water. I think they are, but they're obviously incredibly efficient when it comes to watering their crops and stuff like that. The way they use drip feeding, don't they, with their agriculture? So they've got very good agriculture and very water efficient. And I know that they were looking to sort of export that kind of technology to some of the the farmers in the surrounding countries and areas like that, to buy the kind of patents, I guess, to use that kind of stuff themselves. But anyway, yeah, so I thought obviously disrupting the water supply or just flooding that area could obviously cause a lot of disruption. Potentially, if there's agriculture in that area, obviously could hurt them from that point of view. Because obviously there's points, I imagine, where that country, Israel needs to be quite self-sufficient if they're going to go to war, with lots of different nations, and they're kind of surrounded, aren't they? So I imagine they have to be quite self-sufficient. Yeah, as I said, the population felt like it was not really Israeli, the area that was getting flooded. And it did make me think, obviously, now, obviously I'm recording this now in August of 2025, and this was, as I said, this was late February of 2025. Obviously there's been escalations to the war in Israel and stuff like that that's happened since this. And there's of course the ongoing talks of a two-state solution, even though there already kind of is. And obviously Israel has given away loads of their land in peace deals that just has never been accepted. They've been given, looking to give away land for peace many times in the past, from what I've heard, and it's always been rejected by those that are just want Israel out. They just there's no peace. They want Israel out. But yeah, it made me think of a kind of Palestinian sort of a state that maybe is created, maybe in that kind of area. If that area gets flooded, not really sure. But yeah, who knows whether that's going to be part of some sort of future peace deal or something like that gets brokered. It was also interesting, obviously, the bags packed kind of thing did make me think of, obviously, the rapture, obviously the coach thing of getting out of there, obviously this racing thing. I'm absolutely tearing around Israel, trying to get out as fast as I possibly can. The Finnish flag, that was kind of painted on the floor when I finished that race in that racing car, did also make me think of 2 Timothy 4, verse 7, which says, I fought the good fight, I've finished the race, I've kept the faith. and again makes me think of finishing strong, and with others as well. The area affected, again looking it up, looks to be sort of like the Negev sort of area. And I happened to just see if there had been any floods, because obviously sometimes, I have these dreams, and it's months, sometimes years, before I actually write them down, and I did kind of think, well, have I missed this? Has something actually happened? Was it prophetic, this dream? Has something happened? I don't necessarily think it's prophetic in that it's been fulfilled or happened, and I'm not necessarily saying that I have prophetic dreams at all. A lot of the time I say, that this, I had a confirmation that confirmed the dream was real, that kind of thing. So sometimes I think it's a confirmation, not necessarily being prophetic. But as I said, I looked this up, and on the 4th of May 2025, so obviously about a month and a half later after the actual dream, that it was heavy and strong heavy rain, strong winds that led to flooding in parts of southern Israel, including the Negev desert area, causing the closure of several main roads, including entrances to Eilat, E-I-L-A-T. And the meteorological service reported that some areas received a year's worth of rainfall in a single day. Now, I just mentioned that just to say it's around about the same sort of area. Which caused a bit of a flash flood, and maybe it was a flash flood in the dream. Maybe that's why I was thinking of, and it was showing a flash flood. But rather than me trying to get my dream to fit current events, I'd much rather go with what the feeling was of the dream, which was very much more so that this was a sabotage. It felt like some sort of an act, rather than rain. Flash flooding so it felt like, as I said, a dam bursting or something like that. I didn't ever see the dam bursting, but that maybe it was that kind of thing. Funny little slip of the tongue there. I said dam busting, which was obviously a film about the UK where they drop a bomb that blows up a dam. But yeah, a little bit of a slip there. Anyway, yeah. So I think it was more of a sabotage thing, and I also love the way that God tends to show me locations in dreams. I've had many dreams now, so this is the first Israel dream where I've actually seen Israel from above in a very much a map format. So I know, okay, this is the location. Then the actual location of what's happening is shown in some sort of way. So I've had it with the United States probably twice, I think, where it showed a little pulsating red light, that was pulsating on a specific area, and I thought, okay, that's a target area for what is going to be explained. I've had it on the UK as well. I'm obviously from the UK. I've seen it in the UK as well, where I've seen a target. I've also seen maps that have been almost like a mirror on the sky. So the sky was literally a map that was rolling across my head, and I was seeing countries again in the exactly same format. So it's always the same format. The dream doesn't generally show me kind of like a satellite image with borders. It always tends to be like a kind of like a childlike map, where it's the nations are kind of clearly mapped out. That nation's going to be blue, the next one next to it's going to be orange, the one next to that's going to be yellow. It's very, very straightforward, and sometimes it even says the name of the country. So I remember seeing Italy go by and it said Italy. I was like, oh, okay, I know what Italy looks like, but that makes it very obvious. So I've seen that several times. So as I said, this is just another example of God showing me the location by showing me a map that makes it very, very straightforward. Everybody knows the shape of Israel. I would have thought, anybody who's seen it, knows that location. So there was another bit. I don't know if this was really. This may be relevant, so I'm going to mention it anyway. So I happen to be watching a video from Micah Turnbow. So you probably may not have heard of him. So he's a seer. So he's a person who actually sees angels, sees demons, like you could see me and I could see you, that kind of thing. And it was just a very short video I watched, and it was him talking about Lilith. So Lilith is a kind of character which it talks about in Isaiah 34 verse 14, where it talks about Lilith is the night hag, seen as being a nighttime spirit, a kind of demonic spirit. And people do mention about how they've had, spiritual attacks, from Lilith specifically. So I thought, oh, okay, just out of interest, I'll start reading that. And then I decided that rather than going to 34:14, I would start from the very beginning of Isaiah, just to get the context of what it's talking about. So I read the context, and Isaiah 34:4 actually talks about the heavens rolling like a scroll. So again, it made me think of that. Previous time I've seen map images in my dreams. And I've realised the context for Isaiah 34 is actually, it's always talking about the destruction of Edom, which is modern day Jordan, which is right next to Israel, and in that bottom southeast kind of area. It made me think of that as in the old Edom. So if you were to look at the 12 tribes of Israel, where you'd see Edom would be the southeast kind of area, right towards the bottom of the territory of Israel. So it's around there, and they were obviously in Isaiah 34. It's talking about, it's either the Assyrians or the Babylonians. I think it was the Babylonians, but it was when they were getting taken over, when the Edom was basically getting taken over by them during the destruction around this sort of like So I was wondering whether, okay, well maybe I've seen those borders wrong. Maybe the borders were actually extended, and I was rather than the Dead Sea is right on the border, isn't it, of Israel at the moment? But where it used to be for the 12 tribes was it extended out and across. So there was I forget the name of the other ones. You got Edom, haven't you? You've got I forget the other parts, but yeah. So maybe I was actually seeing more of a reformed Israel, where it's actually taken territory of parts of Jordan, one day Jordan, and I guess other parts, well, it'd be mainly all Jordan, wouldn't it, actually? Now I think about it. That's all Jordan, isn't it? All those nations that were kind of conquered. But yeah, sorry, moving on. So further thoughts were the sky for you, blah, blah, blah. Sparsely populated area, blah, blah, blah. Where are we? Yeah, so the other thought was maybe I'm thinking of this a bit too literal. So the flood being a water flood and a dam being sabotaged, maybe it's actually more symbolic. So obviously with God, when he sends a flood, obviously with the Noah flood, very much a literal flood, but obviously a flood is a symbolism, isn't it, of Jerusalem, of judgment. Of judgment. And so maybe the body of water I saw, I actually saw it built up. So that's the other reason I didn't mention that, is on that map where I saw where this water was, I saw that it was held back. So if you imagine like a line, and I can see a bit of water behind it, and then that line kind of goes, and then the water just goes down that map. So that's where I got the dam image, because it's holding back water, that I could see that there was water there. In that, but I don't think it was the Dead Sea water necessarily. I was seeing water held back behind something that's holding it. So I was also thinking that from a symbolic point of view, that could be obviously God has been holding back judgment, water being the judgment, not necessarily physical water, but representing judgment, and God has been holding back his judgment, but that's gonna lift, and then the judgment will come, and then that's almost like that water is like washing clean that whole area. So it made me think of that as well. But it also made me think about other bits as well. So me going down the literal route versus prophetic route and stuff like that, and the prophetic aspect of thinking about floods in that area, I of course then started to think of the flood that comes in Revelation 12:15. So this is the one where it talks about, I'll read it. So from the mouth of the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman, so meaning Israel. And obviously, serpent, meaning of course Satan. Then from the mouth of the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away in the torrent. So that is very much, well, that was like that kind of sweeping mass of water that would wash people away, that kind of thing. And I checked the map, obviously, to see where Petra is. Now, again, for those who aren't aware, most people do think that when the Antichrist comes, that where there's that the abomination of desolation, or that happens in the temple. The temple is desecrated by, the Antichrist proclaiming himself to be God. Those in the temple and the land flee. So that's like the cars, me bombing it out of the area, trying to get out as quickly as possible, packing up luggage, obviously on a coach, loads and loads of people leaving. It's that kind of same sort of imagery, and everybody's sort of leaving in a rush. But also the people of Israel, actually the third that remain, because only 2/3 get killed and then the third remain, who are kept safe for 1,260 days, so 3.5 years for the second half of the tribulation, kept safe. A lot of people do think that that's in Petra, that people get kept safe there. That being the location potentially, then maybe that's where everybody's going. Maybe everybody's fleeing to Jordan, so across the border, because a flood's about to come, which is the serpent. So again, sabotage makes sense. It could be some sort of a sabotage. I mean, obviously with Satan and stuff like that, I mean, I don't think we really know the true extent of obviously what he's able to do power wise and that kind of thing. Certainly it talks about obviously the false prophet or the Antichrist? I can't remember who he is, who calls down fire and stuff like that. So obviously there's some things that he can certainly do, and obviously with Job you see a lot of things that he's able to do, obviously only with the permission of God. Obviously you can't do anything without the permission of God anyway. But it did make me think of that. So maybe it's that flood that I'm seeing there is actually a sort of a flood, maybe of I don't know, people leaving the area because they're being persecuted. It could be that they're flooding. The flood is actually an actual flood. It could be this Revelation 12:15 flood potentially, something like that. Because obviously in that scenario, there's an earthquake. The ground swallows up all the water so that it doesn't actually get the people, the people of Israel. They're leaving. So it could well be that as well. So there's a lot of bits and pieces to that. There's another bit of imagery that I would kind of want you guys to be reminded of, is when Jesus returns, he doesn't immediately return. I think it's like a lot of people think it's the Mount of Olives, don't they? But it's actually the imagery that comes back, is that when he's coming on the clouds, where it talks about what he's wearing is drenched in blood. The bottom of his what he's wearing is drenched in blood. If you track that back, that actually comes back to where he's said to go to his people first, who are in Petra, sort of Jordan area, which is where a lot of people think the people are. That he goes there first. I guess killing people, killing those on the way, which is where he gets the blood on his clothing, and then rescues the people of Israel, which makes sense. They're the people that he would look to rescue. And again, at this point, obviously God's people have already been raptured out of here, as long as you believe in obviously in pre-tribulation and stuff like that, rather than post-tribulation, which I think is a small minority anyway. And then obviously in mid-tribulation, that sort of stuff. But so it could be to do with that. So no firm conclusions. But I thought it was kind of interesting. There's been lots and lots of map dreams, and they were my kind of thoughts around Revelation 12:15. Maybe something to do with Isaiah 34, where it's talking about obviously the territory of Edom and stuff like that. But hopefully you've not lost the way in the amount of talking I've done there. But hopefully that was interesting.